Hi, everybody. This is Jeff Wilson with the video 4 in our little short series here to help you level up as a man. And today, or in today's video, we are going to talk about the truth about habits and why motivation does not matter. So I'm very excited about this one. I think just in general, what I'm going to say today are just good life lessons. Whether you're sitting here like, I'm going to assume we're just talking about fitness and nutrition, or those are the reasons why you're listening to these videos or you want to make changes in those areas. So just generally speaking, I think the motivational aspect of how people view their fitness journey, nutritional journey, their health, let's just put it that way. A lot of times people are looking for reasons to then go do a thing. And I get that's generally speaking fine. You know, we're here, you guys are listening, you want to a Eastern European wife. Great. That's a massive reason you want to get married. Maybe you want kids. Those are some pretty big umbrella topics to the why behind why you're here. And, that's a pretty good motivator. I'm not judging that piece of it. But when we're talking about trying to level up as a man and be the best man you can be, have the body that you're wanting, the mind that you're wanting, and just overall the life and confidence that you need to really obtain this goal and create the desirable life that you've always been wanting. Motivation is kind of one of those things that just kind of comes and goes. And so we'll dive a little bit deeper in that in a second here. But I think kind of like the hook for today I want to start with is that most people wait to feel motivated in order to actually take action. So, which is why I mentioned, obviously, great motivator to want to get married and all that kind of stuff. So I don't mean that that's a negative motivator in any way, shape, or form. However, I want to instill with my clients, generally speaking, and many different athletes, as well as just your everyday person, just trying to have a good life and have better energy and move better and stuff like that. I always try to instill in becoming the person that is needed to be that vision that they have. And motivation is a pretty unreliable way of getting there. Now, it doesn't mean that it can't be used as a tool. It doesn't mean that there isn't like maybe little spikes. I mean, I use motivation to some degree just to, or a bout of motivation, maybe a slice of it here and there just to like get out the door and go for a run sometimes. So I don't mean to like completely discredit it, but it's unreliable as a source of fuel. And I think that's the important key, and I'll try to say that again at the end to kind of like, surround the topics of today, because I think often, especially with fitness and health and all those kind of just major wellness topics, I think people are constantly looking for that, and the fuel goes dry really quickly. So I'll start there, and I'm going to move into a little bit why it's overrated, talking about habits, but really creating systems around those habits, and then just a couple practical ways within that little scope to really help you kind of rein this in, especially if you feel like you're somebody that's constantly looking for this like quick answer. That's a cue that you're kind of looking for motivation. If you're kind of waiting for like a external circumstance to get you to go do this thing, to go to the gym or whatnot, like I'm not going to sit there and tell you you're lost or anything like that, but it's definitely something you got to face and we need to change. So the first like major point outside of the unreliable reference I made is the kind of overrated nature of motivation. It's like, I think I mentioned this already, but I believe motivation really comes and goes like on a regular, like very like regular basis every day. I mean, just think about you're sitting at your work desk or whatever you're doing. Like there's always going to be this kind of like ping ponging between, do I really want to be here? And, am I motivated to do this next task? And, et cetera, et cetera. And clearly to do anything well in life, the biggest thing is showing up, whether you're required to for your job or whatever it may be. And motivation, ironically, is not what got you there. It's just part of the puzzle. And so a point I want to make too is any high performer I've ever met, whether they're an athlete or just a businessman or businesswoman or something like that, they don't wait to feel like it or not. They just do it. with my whole running background and stuff, there's many days I didn't want to get out the door, but a half mile, maybe 2 miles in, all of a sudden that kind of like, okay, the blood's flowing, I'm getting excited again. And I really think that that's an important aspect of what we're getting at today, and something that I hope to instill in some of you, especially if you're in that kind of place where you either never worked out, never really done a nutrition plan, or just never really focused on those areas, or you're just needing to redo that again. You're needing to reset, whatever it may be. I want to leave some of that kind of mindset with you today, is that what you're desiring with an Eastern European wife and a family and such like that is a big deal. And I'm going to put that in the high performer category. And there's going to be many times in your journey where you may not be motivated outside of just that one aspect. And I'm going to try to encourage you to think more broadly in many areas of your life, your finances, your sleep habits, all things that would go under the umbrella of wellness and having a good life. And I always believe that discipline was several times greater than motivation, because creating systems around your habits, on a side note, if you haven't ever read the book Atomic Habits, there's a couple other books that are really good similar to this, but this is one I've really enjoyed. I think there's a lot of practical knowledge for you to read, and it really just helps you break it down into systems, because when you actually have the systems for it, you're not going to be seeking motivation all the time. You're going to just be living it. It doesn't mean that we're in perfect harmony all the time, but it does typically, after you get a couple months down the road and trying to actually do these things consistently, and you show up every day, you're constantly, scheduling I'll let the book do that, but, or if you're ever wanting to talk with me one-on-one with that, I definitely have a pretty good system or things in place. Most of it on paper just sounds very basic, but a lot of people just don't live their life that way. And when it comes to your fitness and health and all those things, it really matters. It's not about finding a burst of motivation to go to the gym. I have this schedule set, and I'm going to very rarely miss this. It's very important. Okay. One of the ways I'd say practically to look at this and get this done, especially if this is a struggle for you, is to think about the 80-20 rule. So this is way more important than thinking perfection. Now, I don't mean that to sound contradicting to a point I just made, but I really think that perfectionism leads to kind of all or nothing cycles. And this is something I've struggled with my athlete background. I had a very success-fail mindset, and that doesn't help you in the long run whatsoever. Shame and guilt can kind of come into play, and it's like, that's not going to help you when you're trying to lose weight or feel just confident, especially if you're somebody that struggles with confidence, generally speaking, whether it's socially or relationally or just physically. But I think by going through, like, with that kind of mindset, even taking that and going into like how many times you show up to the gym, especially if you're very poor at that now, trying to get to an 80%, 80-20 mindset with your food as well can be huge. Like I believe in cheat days, but like I don't believe in like cheat weeks, especially if you're trying to lose weight or completely change who you've been. But I think it's a good place to start so that you can actually gain momentum, and so you can actually continuously show up and actually do the systems and habits that are needed to succeed. But I will say this, like once you start, it's one thing to miss once in a while. Let's say you schedule 5 days a week. It's one thing to miss, not necessarily once per week, but maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks. But it's another thing when you're missing 1 to 2 each week. That becomes more of a negative pattern, and you'll kind of most likely, feed into, or that may feed into some of your other psychological and emotional patterns that you may already have in these areas. We want to try to push up against that as much as possible, because it's not easy showing up all the time. But I'd say just a couple of like pointers that you can do is your environment is something that, so kind of going back to the systems, your environment is the important part as you try to set up a life that's different than what you have today. And that can create it can create an environment where you're not working off of willpower and motivation. For food, don't buy the chips if you just eat the whole bag all the time. That might sound extreme, but that's really key. Set reminders on your phone. I like to write things down. I I don't like to just have alerts on my phone, but like I like to try to put both of those things in my day so that I'm consistently showing, even as good as I am at showing up in the gym and running and doing all my consistent stuff. Sometimes I just need it to see it in my calendar to go on a busy day or overly stressed day, maybe you can just kind of refer to it and it's like, okay, I know that I need to do this at 4 or 5. Cool. As simplistic as that sounds, it's really essential for the long run. And I'd say the final point I'd make as far as environment goes is surround yourself with people that also want to level up like this. It may not be for the same ultimate reasons like getting married or something like that, but people that want similar things with their physical, mental, emotional health. That you've probably heard 100 times, but it is probably one of the most important aspects in this journey. And I'll leave you with that and just say, pick one habit that you want to lock in this week and write it down. Try to build a system. Maybe get a little bit more robust in your just kind of general way of scheduling and stuff like that. And just add one thing and see how well you can do over the course of the next week or two, and go from there. Thanks for watching. We got one more video coming up, and you'll probably see that in the next couple weeks or so. But thanks for watching, and talk soon.